The reason to call this presentation evening is just to basically reassure you as parents and as pupils, because we've invited all the pupils as well, and to inform you, to let you know where we are to date, what information we have. We have really no more information than we've disclosed, but it's quite over various communications. But I think good to have it all in one place and just to reiterate some of the key messages. Certainly from our point of view, we've got, I suppose, three aims over the next term and a half. Firstly, we want our pupils to present themselves in terms of their work and their assessments in the best possible way that they can, to be the best versions of themselves, to give them every chance to get the highest grades that they're capable of. We want to do it in a sustainable way so that we manage their mental health over what has been, a distressing time for many, an anxious time for some, and we want to make sure that that's sustainable over the next few weeks and months. And very importantly, we want to make sure that the pupils complete the courses of study. Luckily, well, saying luckily, it's not really luckily, we planned it, but we're very much on course to do that. Most departments are at least as far ahead as they would have been in the normal scheme of things, and in many cases, actually further ahead. So the third aim, I think, is one that will be realizable in a very straightforward manner. So those are our three key aims. In terms of the themes this evening, we've asked for questions from parents. I've been speaking to some of our pupils as well, and I think there are sort of 4 or 5 key themes that have come through in terms of what people would like to know more about, and we will bring you up to date as to what we know. And we will, of course, have one more of these sessions, I would imagine, in early March when we know a little bit more about the detail. So the first area, of course, is the nature of the assessments. What will they look like? When will they be? What will happen in terms of extra time and the structure if you've got coursework? So Mr. Atkins will cover that during the course of this evening in more detail. The second theme is around the timetable for the term. When will these assessments finish? What will the next term look like? Study leave, what will happen with that? And again, Mr. Atkins, our Deputy Head Academic, will cover that theme. Mocks, when will they take place? What will they look like? What is their purpose? And again, we will cover that this evening as well. We've had a number of questions around UCAS, deadlines, the effects of COVID and what that will have on offers and so on. Even a couple of questions with regard to your sons or daughters perhaps deciding not to go in September but to leave it a year. What does that mean? We'll cover that this evening as well. Mr. Michael, head of sixth form, will cover that topic. And finally, the sort of co-curricular side of the school. What will that look like when we're all back? And I'm very hopeful that we'll be back in March, and then we'll have a summer term to look forward to. Yes, there'll be some assessments there, but also an opportunity for our pupils to really enjoy the co-curricular side of the school, to see one another, and to really have a fantastic last term at Reeds. And that's really, really important to us. We had a question about Easter holidays and extending, into the holiday. I think at the moment we've looked at that, I think that's probably impractical for a number of different reasons. But let's see where we are in March and hopefully the return of your sons and daughters back to Reeds. So that's the sort of scheme of this evening. You're going to hear from, firstly, in a moment, Miss Rice, our head of girls. Mr. Davey will be speaking as head of upper sixth. Mr. Michael, who's our head of sixth form, and Mr. Atkins, deputy head academic. And he will cover the sort of main sort of structural questions around mocks, assessments, and where we are in terms of the latest understanding that we have from the examination boards and Ofqual. And as I said, the detailed guidance will be published in February, week beginning the 22nd. So I will now pass over to Miss Rice, and she is going to give you an overview from her perspective. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the presentation. I just really wanted to speak briefly, mainly to congratulate, all of our upper sixth students in dealing with a time which is characterised by such uncertainty and such anxiety. I think I should be now unmuted. Thank you. I hope you caught the beginning of what I said, as new to this live Teams event. So I just wanted to start by congratulating all of our upper sixth students on their work so far this term. From a pastoral perspective, we know how hard the last few weeks have been for everybody, for students, for parents, for teachers. But we're really, really so proud of the way our upper sixth have stepped up, have shown resilience in all that they've done and in really facing these challenges. The sixth form management team have had so much feedback from teachers, commending how well students have engaged in their lessons online. They've had the cameras on, they've maintained an outstanding focus in their A-level subjects. I personally have been amazed at how many good slips and distinctions the year group have racked up in their entirety. I think Magda's coffee machine in the cafe is probably going to have a meltdown when we eventually get back to school. It goes without saying that the sixth form team and your tutors continue to be here to support you, much like your teachers. We really, really want to hear from you. You don't have to kind of cope through this anxiety and this uncertainty on your own. So please, please stay in touch with us, communicate with us, let us know how you're finding things. I hope you all have a really restful half term, get some sleep, look after yourselves, and have a really good, well-deserved break from the screen. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Davey.
Good evening, everyone. So, parents, your sons and daughters are of a generation that's attracted the rather unfortunate moniker of the snowflake generation. They're meant to be less resilient, entitled, sensitive. During this protracted period of adversity, the character of your children has rendered that idea rather redundant. They have endured, and consequently, they have become resilient, independent, self-reliant. Now, no doubt there is a sense in the upper sixth of opportunities missed during their final year at school. However, on a daily basis, the pastoral team and I are reminded of the upper sixth energy, humour, fortitude, commitment and desire. From a pastoral perspective, the tutors continue to engage with the tutees on a daily basis. They've enjoyed quizzes, cook-offs, talks, presentations, assemblies, house meetings. And I have every confidence that when the final plan for the assessments is set out and this period of uncertainty is over, the students will have the resolve, resilience and motivation to achieve their ambitions. Now, during the past few weeks, I've spoken to many students and many parents as well. And I would remind you that the lines of communication are open. And we are here to support your children and you, the upper sixth, through the rest of your time here at Reeds. So please do stay in touch. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I think the first thing to say is, above all, please don't worry. By August, what we're going through at the moment in terms of results, what the pupils are going through in terms of their studies, it'll all be over. We'll be looking forward to progressing on to university and the next academic year, which is going to be far less complicated. So we're anticipating the results, however we arrive at them, will be really good this year. There's a number of issues and themes that have come up in your questions. I thought it's probably best actually to run this as a timeline between now and June. In that way, this is sort of a trick of a presenter, is if you've got, at least you know somewhere where I'm going to end up. So if you find it a little bit tedious on the way, at least you can hold on till June and August and find out what's going on. So there will be some structure. The first thing to say immediately is about half term. I've asked the staff, and the sixth form team have asked the staff to just take a step back in terms of their expectations of pupils' work in the last week. We've obviously had a screen-free afternoon or a screen-free morning, so that we've tried to take a little bit of the heat out, because at the moment pupils perceive that absolutely everything they're doing is as important as the final exam or the final assessments. That is not true. So half term, the order or instruction is, please do the minimum amount of work and just get some rest. The reason for that is that we're anticipating that this summer will be effectively a long, deep March. What you do in February isn't important. What is important is how the sixth form perform in end of May and beginning of June. So it is a long route march that you need to be ready for. So therefore, get some rest when you can now. That is really important. We will find out in the week beginning the 22nd of February what the detail starts to look like in terms of what assessments, the way we submit grades, all the absolutely acute detail that we will be working with to try and make sure that we provide the opportunities for the boys and the girls to get the best grades possible. So after half term, we will find out more information. The headmaster said we will position ourselves then and then tell you exactly what we are intending to do. So to give as much clarity as we possibly can to what is important, what is less important. Between then and the end of term, it's finished courses. It's getting the knowledge and understanding deeply embedded, with the expectation that you will come back and do mock exams, as Mr. Michael's already written, immediately after the spring holiday, spring bank holiday. So we come back the first few weeks in April. The mock exams will take about 5, 6, 7 working days, depending on how we space them out. It's important to say that they are mock exams, and they are mock exams intended as us parents probably had mock exams. Mock exams are exams that do not matter. If we have mock exams that matter more than the real exams that have been cancelled, there's something wrong with the system. So the mock exams are there for you as students and for parents to understand where a student needs to perform better. And those mock exams will be set up as far as we can to mirror the mini assessments that we are going to be using later on in the summer term. So the summer term, the first half of the summer term, there will be opportunities for those mini assessments. We're hoping the exam boards provide plenty of choice, but we will be setting a range of those mini assessments and spread them rather like an exam season. For those pupils who have SEN, for those pupils who need support in the classroom or support with their exams, they will get those for those mini assessments. But also it's important for us to pace those mini assessments and make sure that just in the sort of the worst case scenario of some data drops, that you don't have 3 or 2 back to back on the same day. So we will spread those out, and we'll also publish that timeline to parents. So parents, you can know what's going on, students can know what's going on, and those assessments will run between the beginning of or after the mocks to around the half term. For those doing NEAs, the advice is carry on doing the NEAs and put as much effort into the NEAs as you can. The NEAs we are planning will hold as much value in our grades going forward as they would have done in the normal exam season. So if in a subject the NEA's worth 50%, we're expecting that to be a really significant contributor. If it's 20%, it will take up less of a contribution. For the exam board, our understanding will be offering us assessments that we will be able to deliver, or sorry, we can set for the pupils that will be standardized, and therefore that is the evidence that we will be using primarily as an indicator of attainment. It's very different from last year, and unless you were doing the A-levels last year, it won't really matter, but last year most of our evidence was what had happened and then making a prediction. This year it seems very different, that we're allowed an opportunity to set up scenarios where pupils can perform to a higher level than they've already performed at. So it's a very different framework. So we will provide those opportunities as far as possible in the first half of the summer term. We don't know yet when the deadline for submission of the marks is, but I will be pressing heads of departments and the sixth form team to give us many opportunities and to go as far into the term as possible to guarantee that we've got the evidence to support with integrity the grades that we are submitting on behalf of the pupils. Then it comes to the half term. Half term onwards, as the headmaster suggested, we are hoping to move into a situation in which all the opportunities for social activities can be cemented in a 6-week or 5-week period at the end of term. So that is the time we hope that all those social events that have been missed out, the various occasions, the relaxation can take place after we've banked some really good marks on behalf of the pupils. Question was asked about appeals, which I think is a little premature since you don't know what the grades are yet and we don't even know how we're going to assess. But last year there was an appeal structure, and the appeal structure will be published by the exam board. It is likely that you will be able to appeal the grades that you're awarded by the school. It is likely, however, that appeal goes to the school rather than the exam board. So we will have to look at how those grades were achieved, and then you will have an opportunity to talk about that with us sometime around the grade submission date. Results day then in August is back to the normal date. It was proposed it was going to come a bit earlier. It's back to the normal date in August, and that allows universities to sort out their entries and you to sort out your university entries as well. Mr. Michael will say something about accepting university offers. That's also coming in sometime in June as well. So questions that pupils will ask us and parents will ask is, how do I improve my grade? Well, ultimately, we've got lots of evidence already, good evidence of attainment, and we've got lots of opportunities, we hope, going forward of producing more evidence of attainment. So there will be opportunities to improve grades, and those mini assessments of 45 minutes, an hour, however long that the exam board give us for papers, will be an ideal opportunity for pupils to bank better performances, the ones that they have already got. But in some subjects like maths, we've got assessments going back for 18 months, once every 3 weeks or so. We've got the predicted grade exam. So we've got lots of evidence of student attainment in reasonably standardized tests. So we're not worried about having enough evidence to support a good grade for the vast majority of students. The other question is what evidence we can use to support those grades. And critically, that is the one thing you'll need to tune into to the next parents' evening to find out, because until the detail is published, at the moment we're hypothesizing what that evidence looks like. But as I said, very clearly, we're expecting and hoping that that is assessments based on work that is done going forward and tested in small chunks in the summer term, sometime before the half-term holiday. So that is our plan. If you have any specific questions about that and would like to email me those, please do. I'm more than happy to answer those questions. And if I've missed anything else, Mr. Michael will pick me up on it and let you know. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a good half-term.
Good evening, everyone. Good to be with you tonight. I'm going to start really by echoing the pride that Ms. Rice and Mr. Davey showed in the students. Actually been incredibly impressed with them this term. But I'd also like to add to that and very publicly thank sixth form tutors, the sixth form team, and specifically Ms. Rice, Mr. Davey, Mr. Anderson, who've worked incredibly hard behind the scenes to keep your children engaged, to keep them enthused, to keep them positive. And I think that pride with which they spoke of how the students have approached things really tells you everything you need to know about how they do their job. So thank you to them. Now, before I talk about UCAS, I'm just going to make one addition to a point made, just because it happens to be relevant to my subject. Mr. Atkins mentioned coursework and how we're sort of hoping to weight that. One other aspect to consider is coursework in subjects where the final product is perhaps a performance or a practical piece of some sort. The way that the boards are encouraging us to assess that is by assessing the children's planning. Obviously, if we can't get to a final product, which it's unlikely we will, we will look at how they have planned and what we think the final outcome will be, and we have a good ability to gauge their ability. I think it's fair to say that we would be positive in terms of how they've approached that. Now, we had a few questions about UCAS. So we do have a reasonable amount of clarity on some aspects of that process. First thing to say is 10th of June is the key date when the students have to decide which offers they're accepting. There are 1 or 2 unis out there at the moment on UCAS where it's showing as the 5th of May as the acceptance date, but UCAS have been very, very clear that all of those will update to the 10th of June. So you will have until the 10th of June to make final decisions. Now, another thing that's kind of been exercising people and we're looking at very carefully is this announcement from Cambridge that if they're oversubscribed in areas, they reserve the right to withdraw offers. They're the only university who has made that decision so far. Nobody else has announced anything either officially or even made noises unofficially about it. And if you think back to what I just said about the 10th of June, the reality is those universities won't know until the 10th of June that they've actually been chosen, and they won't have an idea of numbers till then. So we won't know anything about that till later. My feeling would be that actually most universities are going to take on a recruiting position. Lots of them will have lost money this year through either people leaving during the year, which has been a higher rate than usual. They've also had a higher rate of deferrals from the beginning of this year. So my feel is they're going to want to have as many bums on seats as they possibly can. There will be practical exceptions to that. So courses like perhaps medicine or architecture, where you have a set space and a set number of stations to work in, they might have to be more solid on numbers, and they probably won't be flexible on the offer grades that they've given. We obviously have our experience from last year, which is probably likely to be similar, but not exactly the same. But certainly the grades across the country were slightly uplifted last year. Good possibility that that picture might at least be similar this year. So we will certainly circulate to you and the students our analysis of how offers went last year and who was flexible and who was less flexible. But obviously that comes heavily caveated because we just don't know how universities are necessarily changing to the emerging picture. But also universities will be offering all of the same clearing adjustment process. So clearing if you've missed your offer and you want to then look at what else is out there for the grades you've got, or adjustment where perhaps you've overshot your offer, you've done much better than your offer and you think you can do better. Both of those processes will be available. And actually clearing last year, there really were some excellent places on super courses at brilliant universities available through clearing. And some people had been turned down by sort of worse universities and found better places in clearing. So that's worth holding out for as well. While I'm talking about holding out, St Andrews, Durham notoriously make quite late decisions, or they do wait to get all their applications in before they make decisions. But I would say in general, if you're still waiting to hear, sit tight, there's nothing to worry about. I think probably they're just looking at the emerging picture before they make decisions. Now, Mr. Atkins mentioned the return to school, and obviously we're unable to give really clear details on what that looks like. Priority for us as a sixth form team and as a sixth form full stop will be grades. We'll be making sure that the students have the time, the space to support to do the very best they possibly can across all of their subjects. However, we are very mindful that they have missed out on experiences. So our hope would be to give them every opportunity to have those experiences. So where we can hold events, where we can have fixtures, where we can have performances, where we can have concerts, we will be looking to do those things where possible. And certainly from a sixth form point of view, it's firmly on our agenda to have a very full kind of levers offering as well and have that experience in there. But we will be subject to whatever the national picture is. So broadly speaking, the principles we'll be operating to is that we will, as Mr. Atkins said, we will want to keep them here as long as possible to finish off courses and do their work. I should tell you, we had brilliant feedback from students who left last year and started university and said they felt really advantaged, and it gave them great confidence that they'd finished courses and that they're alongside people who actually had just kind of stopped in March, April, May, and felt that they were on catch up, whereas the feedback we've had from the Reeds kids is that they really felt well prepared. So we definitely want that again for our students. Once the work is done and we've submitted what we need to, that's where we'll be trying to offer those experiences by hook or by crook. So that's it from me. And I'm going to hand over back now to Mr. Hoskins. Thank you. Hope to see you all soon. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. I tried to get back into my office. My computer decided it wanted to load the latest Java script, which was lovely, but was probably not the best time to do it. But as a result, I've had to come back over to the sixth form atrium just to finish things off. It's a bit draftier in here than it is my office. I'll be scurrying back there as soon as we've finished. Just to pick up on one of the points there made at the end by Mr. Michael with regard to the pupils who've moved after 2020 into their university courses. You know, if we went back a year, we were well prepared for going into remote learning. I think we were the envy of most other schools. Gareth Hart, who's our producer this evening behind the scenes, I appointed as head of digital learning in 2016, and he did a great job. We didn't anticipate a pandemic, but we were certainly ready to hit the ground running when it happened. And I think that the teachers, teaching staff have done a phenomenal job during the last lockdown and certainly during the current one and during last term when we had pupils off and we had a sort of blended learning experience to make sure that our pupils, but particularly those in year 11 and year 13, the upper sixth, completed the course, you know, completed all the material that they'll need for the next phase of their study and their lives. And that's been really crucially important. And I said to some of the pupils today when we were talking about this, they are very well set. They will have covered all the courses in their A levels by the time that they start their university degrees, whether it be in September, the vast majority, or even the year after. So they should take great confidence from that. They have covered the material, they do know their stuff, they've progressed well. We've been delighted with their progress, and as a year group, I think they've worked exceptionally well in the most challenging of circumstances, so they can take huge pride out of everything that they've done to date. I also said to the pupils that, you know, the responsibility of us and what we seek to do over the next term and a half is to support them so that they can show their best, that they can leave with the best grades they can, that reflects their ability, but also that we do it in a sustainable way so that they work towards those grades, but they do so in such a way that they don't get burnt out, that they feel that they're on top of the work, and we will lead and steer them and help them through that process over the next term and a half. And I'm confident that they will all do very, very well indeed. So it's about being confident, and I think looking forward, I would like to think we're over the worst in terms of the effect on school life, and I'm very hopeful that we'll be back sometime in March. Hope that is not misplaced, but that's my expectation. And certainly in the summer term, we can look forward to some semblance of normality. So I hope that you found that useful this evening. There may well be some questions. Email David Atkins or Mr. Michael, depending on whether it's a UCAS or an assessment question. We'll have another one of these meetings when we know more to give you a further update. And certainly when the pupils are back in school, we'll be speaking to them on a very regular basis. So that's all from all of us this evening. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope that you found it helpful. And my very best wishes for a relaxing half term. Thank you.